17 and a half hours, 110 points, 6.34 points an hour. So yes, you can do something about your SATs. Hey, I'm Alyssa, the college expert. I've been helping kids get into college since 2006. So my staff and I are prepping hard for the digital SAT. As you know, this is the first time that the digital SAT has ever been offered nationwide for everybody starting in March. So if you want to prep for the digital SAT, let us know. Happy to help. We got a lot of prep ready to go for it. Okay, this is so interesting to me. Even in holistic review, and Jeffrey Selingo talks about this specifically, even in schools where they say we do a holistic review, the three things that are most important to them: GPA, rigor and breadth of schedule, so how hard your classes are and how much you likely learned in them, and SAT. They talk about a rough sorting of applications, which is where they're separating competitive from not so competitive. So basically, the pile we look more at and the pile that we're not going to look more at. And so those three metrics, they used to do a thing called an academic index where they assigned a number to everything, and probably at larger research universities or public universities, they're more likely to do that because they just have so many applicants that they have to get through. But don't forget that those are still the three big sorting mechanisms. And I always have students who are like, oh, but my list of recommendations, not going to help you if you don't pass the initial sort. Oh, but my essay, we'll talk about essays later, but not going to help you if you don't pass the initial sort. They're looking for SAT, GPA, and how hard the classes were that you took. How much did you challenge yourself? Another piece of information that I found fascinating. We tell students, if you're coming from a high school that isn't known to the college, you're going to have to work harder because the colleges, they accept people from the same high schools every year. They know these high schools well. They know the rigor, the strength of schedule, how hard the classes are. They're like, okay, we took 5 kids from that school last year and they all did well, so we could probably take more kids from that school this year. What I was shocked to find out is what the percentages are of kids who are applying from the same small subset of schools. Basically, 18% of high schools, less than 20%, less than a fifth, are responsible for 75% of applications and 79% of admitted students. In terms of getting in, less than 20% of high schools are responsible for 80% of the kids who get in. That's crazy. So if you're a parent and you're thinking about potentially moving to a better school district, do it. It will really make a difference in your kids' ability to get into school. One question I get a lot is, how do colleges think about individual students? And Jeffrey Selingo gives this whole explanation in the book that I thought was fascinating. I actually copied it out word for word. He said, think of a piece of paper covered with square boxes, defined by factors important to the college. So we got SAT scores, GPA, family income, financial need. Colleges are designing these charts based on what they want more of, like full-pay students or high GPAs, or less of low test scores, high need. And so when financial aid officers offer money to a specific student, they're looking at these charts and models and they're saying, okay, how much money do we give out? Because we're also predicting yield. We're also predicting this student's likelihood to say yes. What is the smallest amount of money that we can get for the highest return on investment, the highest likelihood for this student to say yes? And how much do we need this student in terms of all the things that we're looking for? So it's a complicated calculus, but knowing that they have a model for it is a little mind-blowing. And then thinking about where my students fit in on that model, right? Where you fit in on that model. Also, kind of know your worth, where you are in the buyer's-seller's market in your list of targets, reaches, and safeties. Let's talk about the essay. So I cannot tell you how much time I've spent on essays with students and parents, and how many people are like, oh my God, the essay is everything 650 words. How am I going to do this? Well, one thing that you probably should know is that the essay is not make or break. Essays lift candidates at the margins. They very rarely are the thing that are going to get an applicant in. The essays that stick out don't stick out because of what the applicants write. It's because of how they write it. They're looking for an authentic voice that gives a slice of life and gives the admissions officers a sense of who this student actually is. The essays that make an impression are the ones that admissions officers share during lunch breaks in the middle of reading season. Selingo listed a couple of these. One is about a girl who loves orange juice and who's worried about missing family debates about pulp versus no pulp. Another applicant wrote about her interest in law after she's watching her parents fight medical bills that she got for a diagnosis of some chronic condition that appeared when she was in high school. And so she's like, okay, now I am also interested in law. The best essays are an honest slice of life a piece of the applicant's kind of heart and soul. But they say, don't try to shoehorn 17 years into 650 words. Just tell us something that we won't learn anywhere else. Tell us something about you that is specific and idiomatic to you. And what I often tell my kids is the more genuine, the better. The more honest you are, honesty and genuineness like leaps off the page, and it makes somebody want to be friends with you. And real talk, if they want to be friends with you, they're going to be much more likely to want to have you come to their college. Let's talk about SATs. So a lot of people say test optional, SATs don't matter. Now, of course, that New York Times article came out, The Misguided War on the SATs, which you probably watched my video about. I was saying the same thing in 2021. Happy that the New York Times now agrees with me in 2024. And so Dartmouth recently reinstated the SAT. We know MIT and Georgetown have been asking for the SAT, have been requiring the SAT since like 2021. This is very interesting to me. A survey of admissions officers found that an improvement of 20 points on the math score or 10 points on the verbal score can significantly improve a student's likelihood of admission, especially for students with high scores applying to highly selective colleges. As an SAT tutor, I have always said, oh, it's a range, they understand, 20 points, doesn't really make a difference. Well, guess what? I was wrong. 20 points does make a difference. 20 points on the math section, 10 points on the verbal section. So yes, you should take that test over and over again. Somebody asked me the other day, how many times should I take the test? I said, until you get the score you want. But remember, there's a lot of times to take the test. You can take the SAT through your school. They generally offer it at least twice. You can also take the SAT any Saturday administration that it's offered. The traditional Saturday administrations have been March, May, June, August, October, November, December. They may add some more. I don't know how the schedule is going to change, but those are the times that you want to pay attention to. One other thing about the test score that I thought was very interesting, they said it is the one metric that you still have control over. Because your GPA is a snapshot of how you've been doing from 9th grade through the end of 11th grade, right? There's nothing you can do about it after you get that grade. Like, you can't go back and change it. But the SAT score, you can change. You can keep taking the test until you get the score that you want. You can have some control over that particular piece of information, and it is a thing that you can change in a short period of time. I'll just remind you, our first digital SAT bootcamp, 17 and a half hours, 110 points, 6.34 points an hour. So yes, you can do something about your SAT score.